Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast. For today, we're going over UFC London Volkov versus Aspinall. Last week was a odd week, 4 of 6 on picks. Again, we were riding high off the 6 of 6 the week before. We had 5 of 6 the week before that. 4 of 6 you live with. You're not happy about it. You're not mad about it. As long as you're not leaving being negative, you're A-okay. I know I made some extra dog plays last week that did put me just a touch negative, but I didn't recommend those because I wasn't sure on those, and God bless, I was not right on those. So, but end of the day, that's the world the betting world works. You're going to have a 6 of 6 week, you're going to have a 4 of 6, you're going to have a 0 of 6 one of these times. But all you have to do is do your due diligence, do the fight tape, because sometimes numbers do lie. And there are some instances on this card where doing fight tape was pretty important. And we have a 13 fight offering. We want to make sure that you give this a like over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on TikTok, or all the avenues we use. Make sure you give this video a like, hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, there are 13 fights and it starts early this week. Don't forget, get all your bets in. Because the event does start at 1 o'clock. It is over in London, so 1 o'clock Eastern. So gotta make sure you're paying attention to the time zones. Either way, 13 fight card. It's a pretty decent one. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. We have the very first fight of the night. We're already looking at controversy here. We have Cody Durden at plus 310 going up against Muhammad Makayev at minus 410. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is plus 100. Under 2.5 minus 130. And the reason I say there's controversy is because of this young kid, man. He's good. He's very, very good. You'll see that he's a minus 410 making his UFC debut. He's only 5-0. This guy is just a mystery to me, mainly because, yes, he has 5 professional wins. However, he has like 23 amateur fights or something crazy like that. When you look at this kid's record, look at this, not common you see this many amateur fights, and I don't know how he has this many in. This dude had to have been fighting, I'm looking at it, every 2 months. This kid is literally fighting every 2 months. Gosh. And he was fighting, he has wins, he has a rear naked choke here from 2015. The kid is 21 years old, so he was literally a child fighting. So it's a very kind of like a Zhu Rong situation here. Again, I tell you, the two I really love to listen to prior to filming is I want to know what Cody and Paul have to say with the Dogger Pass podcast. They're a phenomenal outlet. Make sure you give them a listen, a like. I also like the Die Hard MMA podcast because he's a dog hunter just like myself with Clint. Sometimes it gets a little rowdy, but hey, so do I. So I like to see those two in particular, two different avenues. They potentially Dogger Pass, they know when to hit on the favorites, the top tier tickets they know all about. Clinton's going to give you some explanations on why this dog could come through. You put that together, you look at the film, and you have yourself a winning night. That's the formula here. And that's why, again, all of that being said, the Dogger Pass podcast did leave a lot of information about Muhammad that I just didn't simply know. There's not a lot of film on the kid. Most of the fights being amateur. Apparently he's supposed to be the goods. I did see that he was 21 years old. So when I say kid, it's for a reason. He's literally only 21 years old. Looking at the tape, I thought he was a striker. He had it looked like crisp striking, but it was more wild. And I think the reason he's a little wild and reckless is because his jiu-jitsu slick. Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. He won a few European championships in jiu-jitsu. And the sketchy part is the wrestling. He's supposedly a 6-time wrestling champ over in London. The kid's 21 years old. So I don't understand how he won 6 times. I also don't understand how he's fighting professionally in 2015 when he's only 21 years old. I mean, I don't know. A lot of it is a little sketchy here. But at the end of the day, the film does match what they're showing on here. So overall, he could be the greatest MMA fighter of all time, or he could be the biggest bust that the UFC brought in. We have no idea. Good news is they're giving him Cody Durden. Cody Durden isn't the greatest fighter, in all honesty. He is decent wrestling himself. All in all, that's probably what he's best at. His ground game is okay. You'll see he's got submitted by Jimmy Flick, but that was one, Jimmy Flick is nuts with jiu-jitsu, and secondly, it was a flying triangle. It is not normal. You'll also see that he had a lot of fights at 135. He's been fighting at 125 and looking okay. His thing, he had the whole "is he racist" ordeal after some of his comments after beating Iori Alapang. So I feel like him getting this kid is a little bit of a punishment for his comments afterwards, but he is a good wrestler. His striking's okay. It's not the worst. It's not the best. It's okay. He's a little hittable. He does get hit more than he dishes out. However, all in all, I think he's a little underrated. The problem is his cardio. He will win the first round in every single one of his fights. And in all honesty, the 21-year-old kid, he has great cardio. He can go for 5-10 rounds. He's 21. He can do it all. The problem is he's a little bit of a slow starter. And this is only a 3-round fight. I can almost guarantee Cody Durden comes out and wins this first round. My problem is I can't guarantee he wins the second or the third. He probably loses the second and the third. So I think he's going to take advantage of this kid with the UFC jitters. And then that second round is going to dictate who wins this fight, because Cody Durden will never win a third round. He can't. He just doesn't have the gas to do so. So it really comes down to, is this kid's wrestling legit? Can Cody take him down? What is going to happen in that second round? And with the odds the way they are, almost like plus 300, I know there are some people taking shots on Cody, so the line is dropping a little. Still, plus 280, plus 270 on Cody Durden, it's still good value. So it's a complete dog or pass. The pick is going to be Muhammad, but the bet would have to be Cody. Too much value there. It all comes down to that second round. Next fight of the night, it's another pretty sketchy one here. We have Vince Morales at plus 250 going up against Nathaniel Wood at minus 320. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 135. Under 2.5 plus 105. Let's start with Nathaniel Wood. He's a kid I love a ton. And again, you're going to see a lot of Europeans fighting on this card because they are over in London. To Muhammad, if it is a sketchy fight, again, he is from London. He's actually from Dagestan, but he's moved and lived in London, so he'll probably have the home advantage here. Same goes for Nathaniel Wood, born and raised in London. He's pretty good, in all honesty. I can't really see where he's bad at any facet of the game. He has good striking, really high volume, okay cardio. He slows down a touch, but he has such high volume that doesn't shock me. But he doesn't gas. He just slows a little bit. His jiu-jitsu is really good, underrated. You don't see it all the time. He likes to he really reminds me of Robert Whitaker, where he can wrestle, he just does it on occasion. And his stand-up is he loves to counter, but if you're not doing anything, he will just blitz in, forcing you to come back, and then he can counter. So that's all he does is blitz and counter, blitz and counter. Again, his wrestling is not bad. It's not as good as Whitaker, but he really does remind me of him a ton. On the flip side here, I mean, honestly, actually, just sticking with Nathaniel Wood, you even have to look at his losses. John Dodson clipped him. Hey, John Dodson hits like a truck. Understandable, young kid at that point. He was only like 25 years old. You got caught. Casey Kenny is underrated. He's phenomenal in this weight class. And then outside of that, his other losses weren't, all the way back at 2016. So again, just a kid at that point. So all in all, he can finish you either way, on the feet, on the mat. He's just overall a great prospect. His nickname says it all. I do think he's a good prospect here. On the flip side, we have Vince Morales, who I can't really decide if he's good or not. I don't think he's that good, in all honesty. But I can't say he's completely bad anywhere. He has a wrestling background, but he does one of the things I hate, where you wrestled your whole life and then just abandon it in UFC. I hate that. When you get good at striking and you decide you're going to only do that, mix it up at that point. Do not go from a wrestler to a boxer. What you do is you incorporate your wrestling in with your striking. You don't do one or the other. I cannot stand the people that do that. Or you see it quite often with jiu-jitsu practitioners that get some knockouts. They say that's a hell of a lot easier than wrestling and fishing for the sub. If I can just knock you out, and they abandon it. I hate that. I can't stand people that do that. Vince Morales does. Again, his striking did get better. He's okay, but he's almost hittable. He gets hit the same amount that he dishes out. he kind of does the same thing though, to where he loves to counter, but he'll also blitz in if nothing's happening. So it is going to be an exciting fight. I think it's going to be a back and forth fight. I don't really like the odds enough. I like Nathaniel Wood to win, but Vince at plus 250 is also good value. My thing is either Vince has to knock him out, or it's going to be a really close fight and Nathaniel Wood gets the win because it's in London. That's the way I see this playing out. Not solely because it's in London, but it will be 50-50 and it will end up being like a split or unanimous because of the crowd reaction in London. So I thought, well, maybe he can knock him out. Yes, he knocked out Louis Smoka. That's impressive. Smoka's never been knocked out before. Outside of that, decision, he knocked out Brandon Helpelman, whoever that is, and on the regional scene. So he's getting regional scene KOs and some submissions. But when he came to the UFC, he only has one knockout, and he's been in the UFC for 4 years. So he also has lost by submission, and he also lost by leg kicks. And Nathaniel Wood loves to throw. He will literally throw over 50 leg kicks in a fight. He loves them. So basically all the stuff that he struggles with, Nathaniel Wood is pretty good at, and everything else is kind of a tie. So the pick is going to be Wood. The bet at the end of the day would probably be Wood. I don't know if he finishes. I'm staring at this over 2.5 at minus 135. I kind of like it, but at the same time, Vince could clip him because Wood might be a little chinny, or Wood could tap him out because he doesn't have the greatest ground game when it comes to Vince. So I would probably stay away. I'd probably just parlay Wood, but don't parlay him a ton because it could get a little sketchy in all honesty. All right, then the next fight of the night is honestly probably going to end up being one of my locks on the night. We have Corey McKenna at minus 250 going up against Elise Reed at plus 200. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 315. Under 2.5 plus 230. Let's go ahead and start with Elise Reed. She's okay. You'll hear it over and over again. Essentially, she should be a 105 pounder. She used to fight there, in all honesty. Her striking's pretty good. Her jiu-jitsu, not so much. It's a little questionable. Her wrestling, a little questionable, but she will have a 5-inch reach advantage in this fight. Corey McKenna is pretty hittable in all honesty, so that's gonna be it very, very key with that 5-inch reach advantage. It's just a matter of if Elise can keep this fight on the feet. Elise, when it comes to like competition, really hasn't fought the best girls in the world. She did end up getting a split decision win over Jasmine Jasudavicius. And I watched that fight and she did not win. That was a gracious decision there. I promise you, she did not win that fight. But then we saw her fight a wrestler in Sarge who just came out, took her down, and beat the shit out of her on the ground. She had nothing to offer on the ground. And honestly, that's what Courtney wants to do. She also got arm barred in the amateur scene. So if you get this girl down to the ground, she's in a little bit of trouble. And Corey trains a team alpha male, who is just notorious for scooping up any wrestler that they can. Again, she's from Wales, so she's going to have the hometown crowd with her. Her wrestling's pretty good. It's not the worst, it's not the best, but she's 22 and you see it improving each and every time. Her boxing, same more deal. It's not the greatest, but you do see improvements each and every time. She does concern me a touch that she's coming off of an ACL injury. When she fought Kay Hansen, she did end up tearing her ACL, I believe, so she hasn't fought in 2 years. And she also did not win that fight. I don't know how I had money on Corey McKenna to win that fight. And I got away with one. I do not think she beat Kay Hansen, but the fact that it was close enough, Elise Reed is not Kay Hansen. So at the end of the day, she's 22. They seem to get better after a while. So the pick is going to be McKenna because of that wrestling and that pressure. That's what breaks Elise Reed. And that's all Corey McKenna does. So the pick is going to be McKenna. The bet is going to end up being McKenna. Then the next fight is a pretty sketchy one here. We have Jack Shore coming in where money is pouring in on him. Actually, we have him at even money is what I just bet earlier in the day. Going up against Timur Valiev at minus 120 currently. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 265. Under 2.5 plus 200. Let's go ahead and start with Jack Shore. Dude's good. His striking is okay. It's not the greatest. I remember it being better than it actually is. When you go back and do fight tape, it's just kind of pedestrian. But his wrestling is absolutely phenomenal. I didn't say he has good wrestling. This dude has great wrestling. He has really good jiu-jitsu. So once he gets you down, he's able to hold you down there or get the finish. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage here, which is really going to help, especially the fact that he's not the better striker. If he can just set everything up and if he's able to keep him at bay with the jab until he's ready for the takedown entry, that'd be very, very just proficient for him. He does slow down a touch in fights, I notice. Again, he's not a gasser, but he pushes a pace. And he can keep up the pace his opponents can break. But he'll slow down a little if they're still standing there with him. You see him getting a lot of finishes here. He had a finish against Aaron Phillips, a finish against Hernandez, finish against Malone. You just see him, all of his UFC wins are basically by finish outside of the last two. So I guess half. Hunter Azure, it says split decision. That was not a split. He very clearly won. I don't know what the judges are smoking. His last fight against Sholian, he didn't look that great to me. I don't know if Sholian is necessarily UFC caliber coming off the Ultimate Fighter show, but I mean, he's not the worst, but I think Shore should have handled him a lot better. And he was like a minus 600 favorite. It was just a little too close for my liking, but it is what it is. You're not going to be on top of your game every single time. But that wrestling, man, that pressure, that wrestling, and that pace breaks people. And in all honesty, Timur Valiev, he is the better striker. He is sneaky good striking. His wrestling, very good. He has pretty high volume. He's fought the better people 110%. That's another thing. Timur Valiev has fought Chris Gutierrez multiple times. He's fought Hani Barcelos. He's fought Trevin Jones. He's fought Martin Day is not good. I think De Silva's pretty good. Honestly, he's fought the better people. I know that he does suck half his training over in Russia and half his training over in New Jersey with like Frankie Yeager and them. So all in all, my question is, he does have a tendency to slow down as well. He looked good against Hani. He didn't really slow down much there. So it seems like when he's forced to have high output, again, Hani will take pictures and just stare at you for a little bit at times. If he's forced to keep a pace, he will slow down a touch. And that's what Shore likes to do. My main thing is, can Shore take him down? Because I think he's a striking advantage, and I think Shore has a jiu-jitsu advantage, and the wrestling is a tie. So I don't know. Whoever the better wrestler is will decide where the fight is and will decide who wins the fight. So it all comes down to wrestling. And this is where there's such thing as good racism. Like for me, black people will think that automatically I'm good at basketball. Hey, it's cool. It's a nice luxury to have. Timur is Russian, so you think automatically he's a world-class wrestler and you can't take him down. He is good at wrestling, but he hasn't really been tested in the UFC. We have no idea, and he doesn't seem the greatest off his back, in all honesty. So we've seen Timur come out, look phenomenal against Hani Barcelos. We've also seen him come out and struggle with Martin Day. We don't know which Timur is going to show up. We know which Jack Shore usually shows up, and if he can get those takedowns, I don't know. Timur is not going to tap him out off his back, but is Shore able to keep him there? And if he isn't, and Timur gets up, is he going to get gassed constantly defending the takedowns? I can see it. So I'm hopping on Shore before the line flips because all of the money is hopping over towards Jack Shore. He will be a favorite by the time this fight kicks off. So bet Shore and bet him now as a dog. Otherwise, when it starts hitting a pick'em line, you stay the hell away from this card. I can't even do the over-under here because I don't know. I would just pick, honestly, it's dog or pass. Whoever the dog is, if the line completely fits, I'm fine with Timur. If Shore stays a dog, I'm fine with Shore. If it's even money, I'm passing. Stay the hell away. But it's probably one of the best fights on the card. So it's just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. You don't have to put money on everything. Next fight of the night is another one you should probably do that at. You have Paul Craig at plus 160 going up against Nikita Krylov at minus 190. Over under set at 1.5. So you know it's going to be fireworks when it's set at 1.5, over 1.5 minus 155, under 1.5 plus 125. Let's go ahead and start with Nikita Krylov. I think he's good, man. I think he's sneaky good. You see his record of 27-8. Let's look at the people that he has fought in the UFC. I know that he fought Glover Teixeira, who's the current champ. He fought Jan Blachowicz, who is the former champ. He fought Magomed Ankalaev, who's the future champ. He fought Johnny Walker, who's there. He's dangerous. OSP, he can be dangerous. Fabio Maldonado, all right, that's where it starts to get sketchy, but that's not in the UFC. So he is 2-3, 1-2. He's 2-3 in the UFC, but he's fought nothing but top 15 guys. So all in all, he lost who he was supposed to. He beat who he was supposed to. He has pretty good striking. He kind of waits and takes pictures a little as well, and he does slow down a little as the fight goes on. But when he explodes and blitzes, he looks pretty good doing so. He has 55% takedown defense, so that'll be interesting to see if Craig can get this to the ground. And Krylov, he does have a lot of submission losses on his record. I mean, Jan tapped him out. Misha Serkinov, okay, he's really good. He's in the USA. He tapped him out. Let's see. OSP tapped him out previously. I forgot that was a rematch. God, and I think this was a ground and pound here in round 3. Vladimir Mishasenko tapped him out. Again, we're going all the way back twice. We're going all the way back into 2012, 2013. But the point is, he has 8 losses and like 6 of them are by submission. So it's a little sketchy if it hits the ground, and he does take people down to the ground. Don't get me wrong, he's fine on top often, but if he's on his back, he has a little bit of a situation. So I don't think he should play with the ground game here, because Paul Craig, on the flip side here, can't strike. His striking's getting better each time, but there's 2 things with Paul Craig that scare me. One, he said the R word. He mentioned retirement. You never bet on retiring fighters. Sketchy. Secondly, his chin. He has 4 losses. We talked about Krylov and his submission problems. Paul Craig he has 4 losses, and he's been knocked out 1, 2, 3 of those 4. So chin issue may be a thing here. He's pretty low volume. So if this is on the feet, not only is he not as talented, he doesn't throw as much, and he gets hit just as much as he dishes out. But here's the thing. This dude might have the best jiu-jitsu in the weight class. He is a jiu-jitsu ace. He does not have good takedown defense because he's pulling guard. He's asking you to take him down. And last week, I was on Sabina Mazo, not because I think she's good. I thought Miranda was the better fighter, but I didn't think Miranda's takedown was that good. And I said, Sabina only gets taken down off of throwing leg kicks. She's not going to throw leg kicks. She mentioned it. She said, I will not throw as many leg kicks. This motherfucker went out there in the very first round, threw 3 leg kicks and got taken down on 2 of them. She can't help it. She literally just can't help herself. And I am scared of Nikita Krylov doing the same thing. He will kill Paul Craig on the feet, but he loves to mix in takedowns. And Paul Craig loves to play guard, and he's very good at it. And I don't know if Krylov can resist it. He may not be able to help himself and take him down. So I should be all over Krylov. I think Krylov wins this fight easy. I don't know if he's going to be able to help himself, so it scares me from betting it. So the way I would take it is the under. I know it's set at 1.5, but Krylov might go out there and starch him in like 30 seconds on the feet. If Krylov can't help it and takes him down, I don't know how long he lasts on the ground with Paul Craig. It did not take long with Jamal Hill. It will not take long with Nikita Krylov. So the pick is going to be Krylov, but the bet will actually be the under 1.5 at plus money. And then that takes us to the next fight where we can save a little bit of time on. We have Shamil, God bless me. It's Shamil Abdurakhimov going up against Sergey Pavlovich. We have Shamil at plus 250. We have Sergey at minus 320. Over under again set at 1.5. Let's see action here. Over 1.5 plus 120. Under 1.5 minus 150. Let's go ahead and we can start with Shamil because there's not much to say. He's older. He's 40 years old. I know that's not super old for heavyweight, but he's starting to look it. He's very slow these days. His striking used to be okay. He kept up with Chris Dawkins for like a minute in his last fight, and then he slowed down pretty quickly there. His wrestling wasn't the worst, but again, wrestling is going to gas him out now. He's very low volume. He gets hit more than he dishes out. And his cardio, again, is very suspect. So there's not a lot to like. He might look okay for the first 2 minutes of the fight, but he needs to get you out. Otherwise, he's going to be in a little bit of trouble. When you look at his opponent here in Sergey, we haven't seen him in almost 3 years. So that is a little sorry. I would like for him to be a little more active, but it is what it is. He has really good striking, high volume. He has an 8-inch reach advantage in this fight, so I do like that a ton. His jiu-jitsu is a little suspect, but Shamil's going to have to get him down there. He's only 27, I want to say. He's 29. Either way, that's like a child when it comes to heavyweights in MMA. I'm not sure about his wrestling. It's not something I've seen a lot, so I have no idea how good he is. He's a kickboxer, and he has one loss, and it's to Alistair Overeem, so that's perfectly fine. He got taught a vet lesson. Shit happens, and that was his UFC debut. His UFC debut was against Alistair Overeem. So enough said. Otherwise, his UFC wins are against Marcelo Golm and Maurice Green. Not the greatest competition. I believe he falls somewhere in the middle. Shamil, his last fight, struggled with Chris Dawkins because of the hand speed. I think Sergey is just as fast. So the pick is going to be Sergey. The bet is going to end up being Sergey. I don't like it at minus 320, but hell, it is what it is. Take Sergey. All right, next fight of the night is probably the one I have to stay away from. I try to bet on every single fight, but some of them I know I'm setting money on fire, and this is where it's going to happen. We have Mike Grundy minus 150 going up against Makwan Americani plus 130, and this line is moved. I saw it just a few moments ago. It was Mike Grundy minus 190, Makwan plus 150. Money coming in on the Mike Grundy side. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 220, under 2.5 plus 170. Let's start with Mike Grundy, the money train right now. Olympic wrestler. I want to say he took like bronze or something in the Olympics. Great wrestling. Striking, not the best. It's not good at all, actually. He just hits extremely hard. Other than that, it's not technical by any means. He's 35 years old, which I think is starting to dip into his gas tank. He does slow down in fights. Pretty low volume, and he actually gets hit more than he dishes out. So the things to like about Mike Grundy are the fact that he can hit hard and that he has Olympic level wrestling. On the flip side, we have Makwan Americani, and his qualities are going to sound just a touch familiar to you. He is a Finland national wrestling champion, so he is a great wrestler. His striking is a little pedestrian. It's okay. It's not the greatest. He has pretty good jiu-jitsu. I'll give him that. He is pretty low volume. He gets hit more than he dishes out. He's very hittable, and he has poor cardio. They are the exact same fighter. Makwan is about 2 years younger with better jiu-jitsu. Grundy has a little bit higher wrestling pedigree, but hits harder. This is a crapshoot. I don't know what to do with this fight. I am so torn. Even looking at the over-under here, it's set at 2.5. I mean, neither one of these guys are really finishers outside of the first round. So even when Grundy takes people down, he has trouble holding them there. If Makwan gets on top of Grundy, he might have a chance at a submission. He has quite a few. He locks up darts chokes. He loves them. He's very, very good at him. And Makwan is fighting for his job. I don't know why he accepted this fight. This is a very, very tough stylistic fight. As it shows, he's the plus 150 dog. I don't know who in his management thought this was a good idea, but I don't know. All in all, I hate this fight. because I like both guys. Both guys are in jeopardy of being cut. McQuan definitely will be cut if he loses, but I think Mike Grundy has the better wrestling. He can't hold him there. If McQuan gets one, he might be able to get the submission. Eesh. The pick is going to be Grundy. I'll agree with Vegas, but I don't think I can bet him at minus 190. I don't really want to touch the over under because McQuan, when he wins, it's only inside the distance. The pick will be Grundy. The bet is dog or pass. I guess I would put money on McQuan. So if I end up having a good night early, I guess I'll have to just throw some on McQuan and just pray for the dog to keep his job. All right, next fight of the night, we're into the main card here. We have Mr. Hand Sanitizer, Ilya Topuria at minus 475, going up against Jay Herbert at plus 300. Over, under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 is plus 110. Under 1.5 is minus 140. Let's go ahead and start with Jay Herbert. You want to know Jay Herbert? Off-brand Leon Edwards, even trains with him. Really strong reach, really good striking, but not a lot of knockout power. Wrestling is not on Leon's level. Wrestling is not good. He doesn't sport a great takedown defense. It's like 30% takedown defense in the UFC right now. His jiu-jitsu, not good. Leon's, we don't really know. We don't see it often because he always keeps the fight on the feet. But as of right now, yeah, Jay boxes just like Leon, always has a reach just like Leon, is very good on the feet like him, but has no ground game in sus wrestling. But speaking of reach advantages, he will have an 8-inch reach advantage in this fight. That is very, very significant. But he does have a little bit of a chin issue. I mean, he's lost 3 times, and I think he got finished in all 3. Ilya on the flip side is 11-0. He generally fights at featherweight. I know he had a debacle going down to featherweight last fight. So he was kind of forced to fight at 155 for this one, but he also took it on short notice. It wasn't extremely, it was like 2 weeks notice. But it's up at 155, I guess, giving it a shot. I think he's a little small for 155. I think he just has to do a better job cutting the 45. But as of right now, this fight is going to be at 55. He is phenomenal Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's very, very good. His striking is getting better each and every fight, and it looks pretty good now. Solid boxing, loves to eat up the body. He will smash your body and then use that to go up top. He packs a punch. His wrestling, sneaky good. It's actually very, very good. He was able to take down Yusuf Zalal multiple times. He was able to just knock out Damon Jackson, who looked good last week. All in all, this kid, there's nothing wrong with him, and he's a finisher. I mean, look at ground and pound win, punches. He decisioned Yusuf Zalal, but again, he also took that on like a week's notice. But look, on his regional scene, just all finishes. Kid's a killer, and he's very, very good. He's a little low volume. I'm not the biggest fan of that, but he'll pressure you until you can't pressure anymore. So he should be able to take, with 30% takedown defense, he should be able to take down Jay and tap him out easily, just like Renato Moicano did. If it's on the feet and he wants to test his feet, I think Jay Herbert's actually the better striker, but Ilya hits a lot harder, and it only takes one with Jai. Francisco Trinaldo knocked him out. So I think Ilya hits just as hard, if not harder, than Francisco. So the pick is going to be Ilya. I don't know if I can bet that. He's minus 500 or something like that. He's the biggest favorite on the card. If I'm looking at it, Ilya's a killer, so I like the under, but it's minus 140. This is just an extremely tough fight to bet. I guess you can parlay Ilya. That's probably the only way I would do it, and just put him. He is top ticket material, though. I do agree with everyone else that he should get this job done. All right, next fight of the night, we have Luana Carolina plus 115. Fan favorite Molly Meatball McCann at minus 130. Over, under set at 2.5. Over 2.5, minus 370. Under 2.5, plus 260. This has grease written all over it. Let's start with one of the biggest reactions you'll hear with Molly Meatball McCann. She's cool. I like her. She has good striking. Her wrestling sneaky good. She knows she's not a wrestler, but she utilizes it well in matchups where she knows that the person has nothing to offer off their back and they can't wrestle. she doesn't care that she's a striker. She will utilize the wrestling, and I love that. She has really, really tiny T-Rex arms, so she always has low volume. So she just pressures you. She does everything right. She has high volume. She gets hit a ton when she's going in pressuring like that, but she has good cardio, and that pressure breaks people. And that pressure, sometimes they're getting clipped with these wild hooks. Sometimes it's a takedown, and they're not expecting it from a boxer. So, like, I like Meatball's game a lot. I don't think she's the greatest fighter in the world, but I think she has a pretty high IQ, and that's something I can trust. Luana, on the flip side, has the physical advantages here. Luana is also a pretty decent striker. When I say physical advantages, she has a 7-inch reach advantage in this fight. Her jiu-jitsu is a little questionable, but I don't think Molly's tapping anyone out. Her takedown defense checked out against Lupi Gomez. I know everyone will talk about Lupi Gomez coming in and not being able to take her down. Honestly, size does matter. And part of the problem, as someone that used to wrestle, when someone's that much taller than you, you shoot doubles. It's a lot easier to go for their legs just where everyone's located. It's a lot easier to go for their legs. When you try to go for a body lock takedown and jack them up, when they're that much taller than you, it's very difficult to jack up and take down. And that's what Lupi kept doing. Lupi's not a wrestler, so I don't think she fully understood what was going on. I don't like trusting people who don't wrestle to wrestle. Lupi can overpower people at 115, and I like Lupi a lot. I'm not talking trash about Lupi by any means. I just didn't like her wrestling approach. Because, yeah, Luana's ground game is very questionable, but her cardio is okay. Her striking is okay. You can back her up, which I think is big against Meatball Molly. But I think this is a pick'em fight, and you have plus money on Luana, the bigger girl. In all honesty, if this was in anywhere else, I would take the shot on Luana, but the value is not there at plus 115. And again, Meatball is a big favorite in London. So every time she lands a jab, they're going to go crazy. So I think the judges could get persuaded. So what I think happens is I'm going to pick Molly, and I'm going to end up betting Molly. And I think Molly wins a very greasy decision that she probably doesn't deserve. I think Molly gets a hometown win here when it's not deserved, but gets it. All right. And then the next fight of the night, we have Gunnar Nelson going up against Takashi Sato, another lock here in Gunnar Nelson at minus 400. Takashi Sato plus 300, over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 minus 145, under 1.5 plus 115. Let's start with Gunnar because we haven't seen him. We talked about not seeing Sergey in almost 3 years. We have not seen Gunnar in 3 years. It might be more. Last time we saw Gunnar was in 2019. God, so yeah, 3 years ago. And he was going up against Gilbert Burns. Before that, he fought Leon Edwards. Before that, Alex Oliveira. Before that, Santiago Ponzinibbio, Alan Dubois, Damian Maia, Albert Tumanov. He is not fighting easy fights. Jesus, look at his record. He's fought nothing but the best. He also does not believe in weight cutting, so I always feel he's a little undersized at 170, but his talent seems to show out. Luckily here, he's fighting Sato. So this is where it's going to help him. Nelson has phenomenal jiu-jitsu. He's very, very, very good on the ground. His wrestling is just okay. It's not good. It's not bad. He'll get the job done. He's very low volume on the feet, but he's very like flowy, very bouncy karate style-esque on the feet. Not a ton of power or any power at all, really. And he actually gets hit more. Usually karate strikers, you don't see get hit that much. He actually gets hit more than he lands. But I think that's because he's such low volume. It looks good on the feet, but the numbers don't match up what you're seeing. But his bread and butter is a ground game. Look at his wins. Alex Oliveira, sub. Alan Dubois, sub. Albert, sub. Brandon Thatch, sub. Zach Cummings, sub. Amari Akhmadov is very good. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, sub. Jorge Santiago somehow survived, unanimous decision. But DeMarcus Johnson did not, sub. Alexander Volkov, sub. Like, all he does is submit you. All of his wins are by sub. Literally all of his wins on his record are by sub, except for that one decision win. So he has a very, very easy path to victory. Considering Takashi Sato is a power puncher, and that's all he has. He's okay on the feet, but he gasses out as well. He does not have good cardio. And for a striker, a power puncher, he gets hit more than he dishes out. He'll let you hit him 4 or 5 times so that he can land one good one and try to put you out. So let's look at his wins. Jason Witt, knockout. Ben Saunders, knockout. Matt Vela, whoever that is, we're talking regional now. Knockout, 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 knee, knockout. So he has nothing but knockouts. Nelson has nothing but subs. But let's take a look at Sato's losses. He got knocked out. And then after that, he got choked. So he has 4 losses and 3 of them are by submission. He's fighting Gunnar Nelson, who is from the UK, and all of his wins are by submission. So if this thing hits the ground, Sato is fucked. If this thing stays on the feet, Gunnar Nelson is durable. He doesn't generally get knocked out. So yeah, and his cardio's okay. It's pretty decent. So the pick is going to be Nelson. The bet is going to be Nelson, but I'm also looking hard at that under at plus money. Under 1.5, I kind of like it. Because if Sato wins this, it's just a one-punch knockout. If Nelson wins this, he's probably tapping him out. It's just a matter of when. Baeza did it in the second round last time against Sato, but I think Gunnar can do it quicker. So the pick is going to be Gunnar. The bet, you can either parlay Gunnar, or you might be able to bet the under 1.5 at plus money. I don't hate it. We talked about Meatball Molly being a fan favorite. Let's look at Paddy Pimblett, minus 490, which is going even higher, like minus 5 something now. Rodrigo Vargas, plus 360. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5, minus 105. Under 1.5, minus 125. Let's start with Mr. Barstool Sports himself. Paddy, I think Paddy Pimblett sucks. I don't think he's good at all. He will have a 2-inch reach advantage here. He does have a very high clip. He throws a ton of volume. He has really good cardio. I'll give him that. But you can hit him a ton. He does not. He has tall man striking defense. He is not defensively sound. He is a finisher. All of his wins are quick and inside the distance here with chokes. Like, look at him. Hooks, rear naked choke, ground and pound. He is there for a good time, not a long time. He claims he's never been knocked out, and I mean, he's pretty durable. I've seen him rocked multiple times, but he's never gone fully out. His wrestling isn't the greatest. So someone that's such a jiu-jitsu ace, I'd like him to have a little better wrestling, but hey, it is what it is. But all in all, he wins off of cardio, submissions, and scrappiness. And that is awesome. It's fun to watch, but it's only going to work for so long in the UFC. It'll work on the regional scene, but once you hit the creme de la creme, you're in some trouble with if scrappiness is your best weapon. Don't get me wrong, he's not going to run into that soon. I want to fade Paddy Pimblett. I don't think he's good. I want to bet against this man, but he himself mentioned, why would I fight the top 10 already? Let me get here. Let me build myself up. He's asking to build himself up, and he's handpicking opponents. And honestly, Luigi, that was a sketchy one. Luigi's pretty good himself, but actually, Luigi rocked him badly, but Paddy got back up and then ended up getting the finish himself. Rodrigo Vargas, no. Rodrigo Vargas is a 36-year-old bantamweight. His jiu-jitsu is not the greatest. It's okay. His stand-up is okay. He packs a little bit of punch, but he's not the greatest striker in the world. Takedown defense in wrestling is okay. It's not the greatest in the world. Cardio got awful. There's a reason Paddy wanted this guy in London, because it was the only guy that's coming off a win. He can't fight someone coming off a loss. So this guy came off a win, a kind of sketchy one against Zhurong. I actually had money on him that fight. I don't know why I was forced to bet him, but I did, and I won, and I'm happy about it, but I will never bet him again. We only won because he had him in the guillotine for a million years. And look at his wins here. He has a few guillotine wins on his record. That seems to be his only submission. It's a guillotine. But Paddy's not a good wrestler, and Paddy, he wants to scrap, not shoot lately. So I go to see how many knockouts does Rodrigo have. He has 1. Ground and pounds are not counting because that's wrestling related. Is a head kick, so 2 knockouts. So he has 2 on the feet knockouts out of 12 wins. Paddy has never been knocked out. Paddy has phenomenal cardio. Rodrigo has terrible cardio. I think it's pretty simple. I think Patty destroys him. I hate to say it. I want to fade Patty, but this is not the guy. So the pick is going to be Patty. The bet is going to be Patty in parlays. Or you can, underset of 1.5. I would just parlay Patty and make him a main piece, unfortunately. All right, and then the next fight of the night is one of my favorite dog plays here. We have Arnold Allen at -115, going up against Dan Hooker at even money. Over under set at 2.5, over 2.5 -200, under 2.5 +160. Let's start with Arnold Allen, someone I was very high on. He's on an 8-fight winning streak in the UFC. He has pretty good striking, 76% takedown defense, so he's not easy to just take down. He circles and has okay cardio. He does slow in the third a little bit. Like halfway through the third, he'll start to slow down a ton. He has decent power if he finishes here. He's young and getting better each and every time we see him. The problem is he's very low volume, and he actually almost gets hit as much as he gets hit. And honestly, his last fight against Yusuf was winning that round in round 1, and then he got dropped at the counter right hook, and Arnold ended up winning the round. The second round, Yusuf was killing him on the feet, and then he threw a head kick that dropped Yusuf, and then he ended up winning that round. And then he gassed in the third, and Yusuf came out and destroyed him. Yes, he's 17-1, but Yusuf basically was killing him. And outside of that, his level of competition, I mean, Nick Lentz was a journeyman at that point and like retired, basically. Gilbert Melendez basically retired. And then I don't know who Jordan Rinaldi is, in all honesty. And then you're into like the regional scene here. I mean, McQuan is a decent win, but that was a split decision. And again, we just said McQuan is fighting for his job here. Outside of that, he's not really fighting anyone. None of these guys are still in the UFC. And part of the problem is because he fights once a year. He doesn't fight that often. 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. He fights literally once a year. So all in all, the stats don't match the film. Or I should say his record doesn't match the stats, and they don't match the film. He's actually not as good as I thought he was. Dan Hooker on the flip side, he's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage. He has great striking. It's higher volume, and honestly, it's probably better than Arnold Allen's. He slows a little too, so that'll be interesting to see. He has 78% takedown defense, so pretty decent there. It will probably be a stand-up affair. He'll mix in wrestling. We saw it with the Nazareth fight. That was kind of nice, but so will Allen. They're basically the same fighter, only Dan Hooker is a lot larger and throws more. That's it. Otherwise, they're basically the same fighter. So if you have them going toe-to-toe and one is landing more, I want to pick Hooker. I do get concerned because it is in Allen's hometown here in London. But at the end of the day, if Hooker puts on that much volume, you can't deny the obvious. The other thing you have to watch is weigh-ins, though. Hooker has been fighting at 155 his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh my God. 10, 11, 12. Oh my God. His last 12 fights. He hasn't fought at 145 since 2016. So he might have a bad weight cut. If he has a bad weight cut, don't bet him. But if he looks fine at weigh-ins and you're getting plus to even money on Dan Hooker, I'll take the volume and the guy that's fought the better competition. So the pick is going to be Hooker. The bet is going to be Hooker. But please, 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 please watch the weigh-ins. Make sure Hooker looks okay going back down to 145. And then that takes us to the main event. We have Alexander Volkov. Actually, the lines are flipping. Last time I looked, we had Tom Aspinall at -120, Alexander Volkov at +105. Over under set at 3.5, over 3.5 -110, under 3.5 -120. Let's start with Volkov. I think Volkov is my darling. I always bet on Volkov. He's always a dog for some reason, and he always comes close but doesn't get the win. He was a dog against Cyril Gahn. Was he the dog against Elstar? I can't remember. Maybe he's not always a dog. I do apologize. I know I bet on him a lot. I lied. I bet on him against Walt as a favorite. I bet on him against Alistar as a favorite. I bet on him against Cyril as the dog. And I bet on him against Marcin Tiberi as a favorite. I bet on every single Volkov fight. And I've gotten them all right, except for the one where he was a dog. But I mean, that was just a plus money play. Oh, no, he is really good striking. He is very good cardio. Everyone's going to bring up the last fight against Tybura. Someone said that his wife was hospitalized with COVID, like literally days after his fight. And they had a child like that week. So there was a lot of stuff going on. He might have had COVID, literally, and fought with COVID. And I know he got no sleep. I know how that works when your child is first born. You don't get any sleep. So he was at his absolute worst, sick, sleep deprived, and still went out and got the dub. He has fought the who's who, fighting Walt Harris, Curtis Blades, Derek Lewis, Marcin Tybura, Fabricio Verdum, Stefan Struve, Roy Nelson. He's fought everyone, a ton of experience here. He has a 2-inch reach advantage. I thought it would be a little bigger. I wish it was more, but it is an advantage nonetheless. 70% takedown defense is huge because he got taken down a shit ton against Curtis Blades, and it's still at 70%. So he is not easy to take down. And he has pretty good volume for heavyweight. He'll throw. And that's good to know, especially for all 5 rounds. He's going to land over 100 strikes. He will put up some numbers here. And he's going to have to do that against Tom Aspinall because Tom Aspinall is a good fighter. He's the new hotness. He's 11-2. One loss was by DQ, so I don't really count it. He's really 11-1. And his one loss was a decision loss. So it makes me think, does he have a gas tank? Because we saw in the Andrei Arlovski fight, he gassed in the second, but he ended up getting a takedown and getting the sub right away. Now, I'll be honest, he cracked Arlovski and went for the finish, and he gassed himself out. What is the expression? He blew his load trying to finish Arlovski. So I think anyone would have been tired after that. You see that with bantamweights. If they go in for the kill and they don't get the finish, then they kind of just gas themselves out. So I don't want to judge off of that, but the one loss that he has coming by decision does concern me. But usually he doesn't go to decision. He has great power, phenomenal striking. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, which you don't see often. Wrestling, I've only really seen him shoot one takedown, and he got it. It was a blast double. It was phenomenal. But I have no idea about the cardio. He has such fast hands. He's so much faster than Volkov, but he doesn't throw. Yeah, he does. He throws just as much. He throws a ton of volume, but that might be why he's gassing out too. So it really comes down to, is Tom going to be able to crack Volkov? And Volkov's only been knocked out twice in his career. He has like 30 or 40 fights and has only been knocked out twice, and by 2 power punchers, and Derek Lewis and God, who is the Bellator champ? I forgot. It's some really powerful Russian. So he's only been knocked out twice by 2 powerhouses in like 40 fights. Tom Aspinall, we've only seen him go to the second round twice, and he happened to be tired in both. So skepticism says that he'll be tired, but it may not go that long. Volkov's not getting any younger. So my expression was to go dog or pass here, and the line flipped. At one point, Aspinall was the dog. Right now, Volkov is. So the pick is going to be Alexander Volkov. Give me the reach and the experience and the cardio. That's the biggest key. The best things you can have in UFC are cardio and wrestling. Neither one of them can really wrestle. Tom might be able to. We don't really know. But we know Volkov has 5-round cardio. So give me the cardio and the experience in this instance. So the pick is Volkov. The bet is going to end up being Volkov. And that's the fight. Again, don't forget these fights start early because they're over in London. It's a really good card, but there's a lot of sketchy decisions that are probably going to go down. So make sure you're on the right side. Make sure you give this video a like, give it the page a subscribe, give some likes over on Instagram, Twitter, over on TikTok. And otherwise, we've been on a little bit of a heater. Let's continue to get money. Let's continue to get paid, baby.